Hello, everyone. Welcome back to that Atleti Podcast. I accidentally just kicked my desk there. I'm Jeremy Beren of Into the Calderon. I am joined by Ricky Menéndez, my good pal of the Maneras Vivir podcast. Man, we got a couple of really interesting Atleti games to talk about. Another one coming up at the weekend that we'll talk about at the very end of the show, plus our all-time flop 11s of the Simeone era, following on from our favorite players and our cult hero lineup from last week, if you want to go back to last week's show. Before we dive into all that, though, some exciting news about the channel, man. We are getting very, very close to our next milestone, 500 subscribers. We're at 409 as of the start of recording today. So I want to thank you guys for being part of this community that we're building. I'm really excited about where we're heading. It's so fun to hear from all of you and to converse with you, chat with you, engage in the discourse. Like and subscribe here on YouTube if this is where you're watching. Leave a 5-star review and a comment on Apple Podcasts as well. That really helps us out. And yeah, man, if you have any thoughts on that, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, does that mean you're gonna dye your hair red, or are you gonna follow any promise? Are you gonna promise to do anything in particular?
Yeah, you said that a couple of weeks ago when we had Michael on the show, and I might dye my hair some crazy color. I'll have to talk to my hairdresser about that. That's kind of what I'm leaning toward, because I've done it before. This was before you knew me, but when I was in my teenage years and early 20s, I had all kinds of crazy colors in my hair. I was blonde for a while. I had blue hair for a while. I had red and orange for a while. So I'm no stranger to this.
So if we dig down deep into your family tree, you might be Jeremy Beren Griezmann when you go for different hairstyles.
Yeah, listen,
maybe
what he did with his hair inspired
me. Something crazy out of Griezmann's playbook can be the answer.
I could do a faux hawk. I could just shave it all, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Have you ever heard of this Manchester United fan that won't cut his hair?
Yeah, I follow him on TikTok.
United hasn't won 5 in a row. The guy's gone 300 days without cutting his hair.
He's amazing. He's gone like over a year.
Crazy pro.
Listen, that too is inspiration. Maybe I just will stop growing my hair.
He's attracting all kind of sponsors. That's the only good thing in his life. I mean, bad thing is he's a Manchester United fan, and that's not working very well for him at this moment. Sorry if there's any Manchester United listeners. We don't want to offend anyone or rub anyone the wrong way. But yeah, that's kind of a mess.
He's gained a hell of a lot of notoriety for it, man.
He has. He's turned into a little bit of a legend.
All right. So thank you guys again for being here. We really love talking to you. We really love having this show. And we are going to dive right in. Atletico played 2 games at home this week. Some home cooking for Los Colchoneros. A 3-0 win over Sevilla on Saturday and a 3-1 win over Union St.Gilloise, the Belgian champions, on Tuesday. And that first ever meeting between those two sides. And a common thread in these 2 games, Ricky, that I noticed is the way in which Diego Simeone effectively tapped into his bench and how Atletico found strength from its second half substitutes in both cases.
Oh yes, indeed. And going back to where do you want to start? Do you want us to go with the Sevilla game? Do you want us to go with the San Gilloise?
I want to focus mainly on Tuesday's game, and we can draw a little bit from Saturday.
Okay.
Tuesday's game is just the most recent one, and I think that one was more interesting to me because Atletico really struggled for a large portion of that game, trying to get through Union St.Gilloise's 5-3-2 and having to deal with those transitions from those crazy fast players.
Would you put that more as something that St.Gilloise did right, or something that Atleti did wrong? What would you be more in favor of? Recognizing the merits of the team, or just recognizing that Atletico sometimes struggle? And I think it's a common factor that connects both games. How they had a worrying beginning and they felt very, very comfortable towards the end. Well, with that small scare at the end with the San Gilloise a goal that brought things a little bit too close for comfort. I think that what is also a common thread in the narrative of this season is the amount of set piece goals that we're allowing defensively, and gross mismanagement of defending headers throughout the entire season, something that already was a significant factor in last season. Um, in the conversations that I've been following, I've heard a lot. I've heard Ruggeri taking a lot of heat in recent hours for his poor performance. If Arsenal was a game that kind of exposed the flaws of Hansko as a fullback, I think that this game, um, with two liabilities on both sides, and we already talked about Ruggeri being a development player and not being a sure bet, um, as being possibly the weak link in the defensive system of Atletico Madrid, and Molina on the other side, resting Llorente in a very surprising situation. Those two players, I think, were more exposed than the rest. Even though I think that the majority of the criticism that I've heard has to do more with Ruggeri's performance than with Molina's. I don't know if you see it the same way.
I see it about the same way. Ruggeri had a really tough game against USG. You can really tell that this is a player in a developmental phase. And like Atletico paid under 20 million euros to get him from Atalanta. He was not an every single game starter under Gasperini at Atalanta last year. You're kind of getting what you pay for, right? You pay
Exactly.
17, 19 million for a 22-year-old, going on 23-year-old left back who I don't think he's debuted for Italy. I don't think he's got a call up to the Italian team, but I don't think he's made his senior debut for them. If
Mhm.
I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments.
No, no,
But
no.
I mean, you're getting what you pay for in this respect. You're getting a developmental player who has a lot of growing to do. Right now, he is not of the Atleti standard. He's not of the level required by Simeone. And it's not entirely surprising when you and I talked before the season, or at the very start of the season, we kind of talked about Ruggeri as having the most variance in how he could perform among all the summer signings. And the architect of this summer, Carlos Bucero, is someone we're going to talk about a little later in the show because a
Mhm.
big update on his future dropped on Thursday. But yeah, Ruggeri had a really tough game. Molina wasn't amazing, but he didn't do anything terrible. He picked up a needless yellow card in the second half, but he did all right. He was relatively sturdy, kind of
Mhm.
tucking in as an additional center back. Not too many defensive lapses. I mean, they targeted him early. They targeted Giuliano early as well. And
Did
I
he
want to talk to you
did he
about
have that
that
initial
resilience he
shot that
showed.
ended in a disallowed goal? Was that Molina,
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken? Yeah.
it was Molina smacking it off the woodwork and Griezmann tapping it in, but Baena and Griezmann were both offside, so it
Goal
was
offside.
disallowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them were. Even if it was only by a step, they were both offside.
Yeah.
But yeah, Molina was okay. And with Robin Lenormand suffering an injury in this game, we're gonna be seeing a bit more of Nahuel Molina through the rest of the calendar year. In case you missed it, Robin Lenormand has suffered a pretty bad knee strain, no ligament or meniscus damage, which is great because if there was ligament damage on this collision with I can't remember who it was, one of USG's midfielders, Zorgan, I think. If there had been ligament damage, that would have ended his season, and that would have put Atleti in a really, really tough spot. Because say what you will about Lenormand, and you and I have said plenty about him, but he's had a lot of minutes this season. He's been a fixed starter in defense, and he's been fairly good,
Mhm.
considering where he was last year. He's been fairly good this year. I've been pleased with the standard of his performances for the most part. Hasn't been perfect, but for the most part, I've been all right with Lenormand. He is not this team's biggest issue. So it's going to be interesting to see how Molina and Llorente both fit into this new dynamic without Lenormand. And I wonder if I'm still banging the table for Mark Pubil, man. I'm really hoping that our pal Mark gets in on the minutes here. He's only had 23 of them in La Liga so far.
He's getting more media exposure now that they've opened the doors to online media performing interviews. That's something new. The
Very cool.
Atletico Stats, the website is having a sit down with Pubil, which is coming out in a few hours, if I'm not mistaken. Um, one of the hosts of the Atletico Stats, the one that it normally appears in the on tour videos. Marco is a very good friend of mine, and he told us at the interview. He told a group of friends of his that the interview is really nice. That fans are going to enjoy it thoroughly.
Can't wait to
So
watch it.
that
Can't
will
wait.
that will be coming out in the following days. Maybe we can talk about that next week. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to the Union St.Gilloise game, you posed a question about whether this was Atletico's struggles. Even in a 3-1 win, this was a struggle.
Hmm.
They really had to huff and puff for this one, whether it was down to Atletico's failings or USG's virtues. And I do think the answer is in both. I was really impressed not having watched a lot of Union St.Gilloise, but knowing like the general, like the broad brushstrokes of
Hmm.
what that club has been through in recent years, winning the league title last year for the first time in 90 years, which is
Hmm.
incredible. Um, you can tell they're well coached, well drilled, very disciplined, lightning fast transitions. Their striker, Kevin Rodriguez, he gave Hansko a terrible time. Hansko really struggled to track him. And what this game revealed to me, Ricky, this is something we can talk about, how little pace and how little strength Atletico de Madrid has in these European contests, especially when
Hmm.
Llorente isn't playing. Like
Yeah.
Barrios and Giuliano Simeone are two of the precious few players we have. Alvarez, you can count Alvarez as a world-class talent, but like those three dudes, and then there's really not a whole lot else in terms of those elite physical traits, your speed, acceleration, pace, rhythm. Atleti don't have a lot of that. If this game had been played in Belgium, I think the result could have been really different.
And Atletico would have been in for um, more suffering and finding that the lack of dominance that they proved in the first half could have cost dearly. I think that Atletico Madrid uh, tidied up a game that was much more complicated than it seemed on paper. A little bit extending the narrative that we came from versus Sevilla. Um, I think that Atletico Madrid came away with a very nice result on the sheet that differs very much from the feeling, especially in the first half of both games.
Yeah, I did not think that Sevilla game was going to end 3-0 based on how the first half was going. It was really slow,
Yeah.
really sleepy. Would you agree that Pablo Barrios has a case of being this team's most important player?
Oh,
I
no.
noticed
I
him
feel
noticed him there against Sevilla, man, and against Union St.Gilloise, he had one of his best performances, I think, in this shirt. He was incredible.
and at the same time, that ties into something that doesn't seem to be working yet for Atletico Madrid is tinkering with Vaina's position. He doesn't seem
Hmm.
to be at ease where he's playing. He's trying his best to fit in, but it's not an immediate fit and hit the ground running as we've seen in the case of Almada or in the case of Nico Gonzalez. They've been immediate additions and almost players that you count on as alternatives to the starting 11 or starters. The case for Baena is that you can notice a quality, but you still see that there's that he doesn't feel uh, well, he still hasn't found his place within the starting 11. For sure, he's a
And there
starter, but where is that place going to be? That is still something that has to be defined.
against Sevilla, he played in Barrios' role in central midfield, and I thought he was great in the first half, kind of
Mhm.
slowed down a bit in the second half, but I don't believe that is his best role. I believe this guy is the new Antoine Griezmann. I believe he should be
Yeah, I
playing
think
behind Alvarez almost all the time.
he should be closer to Julian, and I
Yeah.
think that's when we're going to see a better version of him. Yes.
But there's a bit of musical chairs going on here because Simeone has to give minutes to Alexander Serloff. He has to give minutes to Conor Gallagher, both of whom played pretty well on Tuesday. This
They
is, I
did.
think,
They did.
closer to the Serloff
They
that
did.
we really need to
I
see.
cannot express my traditional sort of hate in this episode. I'll have to, I'll have
You
to
fill it in.
wait for a better occasion. But
No, he was
I
good.
mean,
This is what we need from
it's
him.
just a style of play that I don't I don't I can't fall in love with that kind of style of play that uh, he's so apparently physical, and you get so little from so much of a big guy that I was expecting a little bit more. of a player that would be constantly grinding, and he's definitely not a grinder. He's more of a slow moving player, but he did have very interesting plays. I think that Conor Gallagher's goal is Mm, the play is fully merit um, by Sorloth. What do you think about the penalty? I've got the possible penalty. I don't think it merits a penalty review. I can understand where the referee is coming from, but I had this discussion online. I'm sure that many of our listeners, many of our viewers are had the same type of debate at home or with their friends when they were watching it, um, that Sorloth does more to force a penalty uh, than to play the ball, and that's what the referee finally comes away with. And something that works very well for Mbappe and Vinicius doesn't work for Sorloth, and he doesn't get awarded for a very similar play to the two others that we see that are awarded penalties. I don't know if you see eye to eye with me on that one.
I think it would have been a penalty, though. I think it would have been a softer call. I think in Spain that is probably warrants a review. And if it's Julian or Giuliano going down in that context, in that situation, they're probably winning a penalty. Even in the
Mhm.
Champions League, they're probably winning a penalty because you're talking about a lower center of gravity. You're not talking about this big hulking 6'5" man
Yeah.
bearing down in the box. But I think you're right. I think that's a really good way to describe it. Is he does more to win the penalty than he does
Yeah, he,
focusing on
he
the
he
attacking action.
forces he forces his leg into the space where the defender's trying to hit the ball, and as a consequence, the player ends up hitting the ball and hitting the player, and that feels like it's more forced by Sorloth than something that was naturally um, uh, that can naturally be seen as a foul inside the box.
But I was all right with that in a sense because that is what I want Sirloth doing. I want him getting into those attacking positions and causing panic for
Indeed,
defenders.
indeed.
Something that Atletico really struggled with, not just in these two games, but for years, is the attacking
Mhm,
movement in and around the penalty area and forcing defenders into decisions. My good friend Emmanuel Lavages on Twitter brought this up. Emmanuel has his own Atleti podcast, the Partido a Partido podcast. He brought up the point
mhm,
that he and I have been talking about this on and off this year, but he brought up the point that Atletico forced defenders into really panicky decisions, and
mhm.
we don't often capitalize. It takes us a lot to score in these European games, especially. It takes us a lot to score sometimes because the decision making and the attacking movement are not quite in sync. It's not quite aligned. So I don't know. I thought that was an interesting those were interesting changes that Simeone made, and they really helped us get the win. Gallagher crashing the box. This is his best role. I
Mhm.
think our first episode, man, we talked about how Conor Gallagher could be transformed into something of a new Raul Garcia. I'm still holding on to that. Like a second striker type of role that's the role in which Gallagher is going to have to take on in this team. He's a really good Premier League midfielder who is not a very good La Liga midfielder. Just the pace and the rhythm in La Liga are way different than they are in England. And that's
Yeah,
not
that's
really
the feeling
that
you
sounds
get.
bad for Gallagher, but it's not I'm not really ripping on Gallagher. It's just those two leagues are just very, very different in that respect. Gallagher as
Yeah,
like a second
and
striker and another option behind Alvarez, I think that's ideal.
the talent skill set just doesn't translate completely, and you feel that he's a useful player, but it's going to be hard to envision Gallagher having a long career as an Atletico player.
Yeah, I posted a short yesterday, and I had a commenter ask, "Can we stop talking about Gallagher? Can we stop talking about the Gallagher situation?" But he's only made 2 starts in La Liga, like, and he does have a market, as you pointed out last week. Like Manchester United want to sign him, and he's not a guaranteed starter. The Simeone
I
has
think
always
that
talked about the quality of minutes instead of
every
quantity.
player
That
that
doesn't
you're
work for Gallagher.
willing, yeah, every player that you're willing to put on the market, I don't think you can find a player that has a higher market value right now than Conor Gallagher.
In
Of the
terms of
ones
players who make
that you're willing to move on from,
yes,
not the players that you consider your core players for sure, not those.
I mean Gallagher is 26. His
Mhm.
I don't have his transfer market value up in front of me right now, but I can pull that up. I probably
I
should.
mean,
I mean, you
the,
signed Gallagher
the
for
the
42
offers,
million in
yeah, the
2024.
offers can be in the range of 50-60 million right now.
Yeah,
That's a huge amount of money.
his value on transfer market is 40 million. So if Atletico are able to drive that up a little bit, or a
Mhm.
loan with an obligation to buy of around 40 million
Yeah.
with an initial like handsome loan fee, I think Atleti will probably do it if he asks to leave. But we'll see if he asks to leave or if he wants
Mhm.
to stick it out for the rest of the year, because I think he is an important squad player. He might not be a starter, but he's competing with Barrios and he's competing a bit with Almada. And what do you think of Almada's role? I didn't really see him being a bit of a box crasher, but that's what
Mhm.
he's been these past few games.
Well,
I really like it.
he's phenomenal in that sense, and especially the feeling that he's always very close to being clutch in the when push comes to shove. It's a player that you need in in those final minutes when you know you're only going to get a handful of chances and you need to capitalize on those chances. And he seems ideal. It's like the natural replacement of Angel Correa. It seems like he can give the team more than what Angel Correa was giving on a regular basis in terms of being an occasional starter. But I think the trial is still out about what player is going to be able to compete with Giuliano. I think that right now it's very difficult to not see a starting 11 where for sports reasons Giuliano is left out of the starting 11. That leaves
Yeah.
one spot for Nico and Almada to fight over. And right now, Nico seems to have the upper hand on the decision making. So it's Almada's turn to just wait it out. And but it's great. It's a great problem to have. You have three competitive players fighting for two spots. Um, they're kind of interchangeable. They can move around. They're very versatile. Um, but especially Almada is the most versatile of the three, I would say. And it's a very interesting situation.
You mentioned Giuliano, and we can't end this segment without talking about him or without talking about Jose Jimenez, who has just made a glorious return to the team, and the defense has immediately improved. Giuliano, man of the match performance on Tuesday, his first man of the match trophy in the Champions League.
Incredible, man.
He's just going from strength to strength, man. I think that's 2 goals and five
And
assists in his last
the
9 games.
way he pulls the ball away from Sykes and fights it in the first goal, and the way he almost comes away with a tremendous a steal against Sykes again. Uh, he just had a phenomenal performance where you see that huge difference between the players that have that energy and that's stamina to um, they move the team forward and make the team believe that uh, that player can make a difference, and other players that are harder to rely on. Giuliano is somebody you have to count on as part of your starting 11 right now. I don't think that anybody can make a case for a starting 11 where Giuliano is not part of it.
No, he's playing too well. He's too important. He has too many traits that other players in our team don't have. The defense without Lenormand, how do you see this going, especially with Levante coming to town on Saturday?
I mean, it's Pulic time, or Pulic time, as Simeone would call
Pulich.
it. Uh,
He's never going to live that down. That was a bad one.
yeah, I can see Pulic have uh, getting the nod out of dire necessity. I hope that we don't go back to seeing Lenglet appearing on starting 11s or being a player that falls into this rotation of players. When the defense starts to wear thin is when we normally have the situation where Jose Jimenez sooner or later gets knocked out of the contention for a
That's what
starting
I'm
spot
worried
because
about.
he just goes through an injury. I hope that Pulido has the opportunity to prove that he's useful. he can play center back. I'm not very sure why he wouldn't be fullback, and Simeone is still insisting with the options that make less sense outside of Llorente, and yeah, just waiting for Pulido to get his chance.
Well, one of the reasons we have to have this discussion and in this conversation about the structure of the defense and how you can make an argument that Atletico have three left backs and three right backs in the squad, it is down mainly to the work of Miguel Angel Gil and Carlos Bucero, his director of football. We got
Yeah,
a big update on Carlos Bucero's future today, Ricky. It appears as if his sidelining following Mateo Alemany's arrival as sporting director, it appears that Carlos Bucero is going to be leaving Atletico in the near future. Mateo Morato on Radio Marca today stated that Espanyol is likely Bucero's next destination. He's in negotiations
yeah,
to
it was.
join
Uh,
the Barcelona-based club.
Yeah, I was surprised to read that because I really had the feeling that he was that he had just been moved to a different position, a more um, executive role. But apparently, um, they just weren't happy with the decisions that he had made. Something very interesting in the information that Mateo Moreto was sharing today. I don't remember where he was talking. I don't know if that was a Marca podcast or something like that.
I think it was Quintana's show.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it was Quintana's podcast. Or maybe the Radio Marca show. I don't know if it was the official one or the one he has on the side.
Oh,
Wherever that was, what feels surprising is that they're linking him very much to the signings made by Zaragoza. Maybe many listeners and viewers or viewers that don't have this the knowledge about this, but this part of the shareholders that um, have a stake in Atlético Madrid also have a stake in Zaragoza. That's kind of been a behind the scenes operation. It hasn't been publicly disclosed, but the signings that arrived to Zaragoza is last in the Segunda División. Um, they're probably not happy with the players that have landed there. Many Atleti
they
fans
sacked
are
Gabi last month.
they sacked Gavi last month, and Atletico de Madrid is definitely not happy, or many Atletico de Madrid fans are definitely not happy with some of the um, holes that were left in the roster, and some of the um, areas that were poorly covered, while others were overpopulated. So that incapacity to close a market that had started very, very well for Carlos Bucero and make some poor decisions in terms of the amount of money spent and the options that were available on the market. I think it's been the final nail on the coffin, and um, I have to say I got that wrong. I thought it was he was going to be promoted to an executive role, but he seems to be very close to going out the door.
It's a pretty astonishing fall from grace when you think about it, because he arrives in January 2024. He's supposed to herald a new era of business at Atletico de Madrid. That season is the first time under Diego Simeone that we finish outside of the top three in La Liga. Andre Berta ends up leaving, and it creates this kind of a power vacuum that in which Bucero steps in, and as the director of football is kind of doubling as the sporting director. And what he does with it is in two windows, he greenlights the spending of 364 million euros on 14 new
Mhm.
players. And the team is better, but this is just a constant debate that we're having on this show every week is, but how much better, right? How
Yeah.
are we appreciably better, or are we just a little better, or are we worse in some ways? And I think the answer is yes, yes, and yes. It's
Mhm.
nuanced, it's complex, but fact is there are still holes in this squad. And Bucero was kind of tasked with papering over all those cracks and patching those holes. Where is Jack Raspadori right now? As much as I've liked Jack's cameos, you spent 20
Mhm.
million euros plus on a player who didn't really fill a need. It's a very inefficient way to build a
A
squad when
friend
you
of
try
mine
to sign.
Yeah, a friend of mine was giving me gave me what could be a headline of the situation, or a way to summarize the situation. You have um, you have more spending sitting on your bench than you have playing on the field. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, on the bench, you have Raspadori, who was over 20 million. Mark Pubil was 18 million.
Mhm,
Matteo Righetti has been on the bench for most of the season. That's another 20 million. Those three
mhm.
players right there, that's 60 million sitting on the
Yeah,
bench, right? Hansko is being played out of position more often than not. Um, Nico is here on loan, but that's a 30 million option to buy that's going to be triggered probably in the next couple of months based on the number of games played. Almada and Bayern are the others, and it was a very hit or miss window. But I
and
think
we all
Raspadori
know
is kind of the
that.
poster boy of
Yeah, and
this.
we all know that sports have that unfair fact of being very, very results oriented. You can have the best intentions, great ideas, and just miss on the execution, uh, or that something happens like the Cardoso injury, being more severe than you initially expected, and
Hmm.
it, since all the needs weren't addressed, and we've had this conversation when we were talking to the nice people from the Arsenal podcast. It's just a matter of mm, how how much of a work in progress the roster actually feels like. It doesn't feel like it's a completed job, or um, it's a roster that you can feel that can be competitive at any level. Even though Atletico is starting to feel very competitive, it still feels like there are some things that are still not there. And will they ever be there during the season, at least?
I mean, yeah, between Cardoso, Pubil, Raspadori, and Righetti, that is 80 million euros plus worth of talent that's been on the bench for most of the season.
Hmm.
Um, and I think in some quarters of the media, Simeone would be blamed for that, but I think that evades the real culprits are in the box.
Hmm.
As the saying often is in El Palco. It's Heel who hired Bucero because he didn't want to hire Alamai because Alamai told him 2 years ago, out of the 20 players in this squad, you need to get rid of 17. And Heel said, I'm not doing that. Carlos Bucero, come on board. Do this in 2 windows instead of one. And now Alamai is here anyway. And starting in January, it's going to be interesting, man, because there aren't very many rumors right now, but it's going to heat up, especially 6 months from the World Cup when people are going to go crazy. So we talked about this a little bit last week, but we're going to just keep having these conversations based on what the rumor mill tells us and what we can, I guess, discern from the tea leaves about what Atletico might do in January. I think Alamai could be very busy. I think he could be not at all busy. It's
Hmm.
tough to do deals in Spain in January because of the financial margin. Not a lot of clubs have it.
Yeah.
And you don't want to blow. You mentioned this last week. You don't want to blow up the dressing room to find homes for Surlock, Gallagher, maybe one or two of the signings just from this summer.
Yeah, and sometimes the players that you bring are just not fits for the team, and they end up um, not feeling at home as mid-season arrivals. Even though I can't think of a single season where Atletico has not had to spend significant amounts of money during the winter transfer window. There has just been so many needs that Atletico has always had to patch the team up mid-season through, and that just it proves that there is a component of poor planning that is always there.
Always, sports
Yeah.
planning is just always suboptimal here.
Yeah.
Well, the notable exception to not spending in January was last year when Atletico were winter champions. And on January
Mhm.
2nd, there was a report in market that said Atletico are not planning to do business in January when everyone knew that we needed a pivot and we needed a left back.
Exactly.
So
I mean,
we'll see what
you
happens.
could either go for it, or think that that good news that you had in winter was going to um, it was going to extend throughout the entire season, which of course it didn't.
Yeah, and guess what? It didn't. So we got a couple things to wrap up the show with today, man. in lieu of, well, not in lieu of, that's not what I wanted to say. In line with, rather, the fun segments we've been doing lately, naming our favorite 11 from the Simeone era, our cult hero 11, our unsung hero 11 last week. This week, we're going to do the flop 11. These are players who arrived
I've
for
got some
big
controversial
fees.
names for you.
I'm sure you do.
Yes,
These are
I
players who
mean,
came here for big fees,
players
big
that
wages,
you
and just struggled.
players that you've mentioned in your 11s, in fact. So it goes from being an
Oh,
unsung hero to being a flop, in my opinion.
okay.
That's
All right, I'm
that's.
cracking my knuckles here, man. Let's go.
What are we starting goalkeeper or I've got two candidates for goalkeeper.
Yeah,
I'm
so
I'm
do I.
going I'm going Adan
So am
uh,
I.
because he's Madridista and why not? That's reason enough. um, eh,
What?
my alternative was Sevilla, a
Oh,
player
okay.
that was. I mean, the thing is that these goalkeepers arrive just with the intention of being a backup plan in case Oblak goes down.
Right.
We can talk about Gerbich. Didn't make too much of a splash here either. But I think the Adan would be my name. I think there's a little bit of Copa drama that went on with Adan as a goalkeeper, and
Mm-hmm.
there is a one of those Copa disasters that happened while Adan was playing. So I'm definitely going to go for with Adan. You chose saying
I picked the Adon as well. I was
okay,
very excited when Atletico signed him from Betis because he was very good at Betis. But you signed him with the express goal of making a deep Copa del Rey run, and they never even got close to the final. He
yeah.
let in some howlers, terrible goals. My backup to him though was Bajmal Lecomte, who never played a single game for us.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Backed up Oblak in the 21-22 season before we replaced him with Ivo Grbic, who was okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Certainly not nowhere close to Oblak. No disrespect, but Oblak is Oblak.
Very easy to forget. I mean, he
Yeah,
was. I've got a few
I
of
didn't.
those players that
0
we
games.
should have forgotten and never got to see. I'm a bit like Bucero. My fullbacks are overpopulated. I have so many options. I'm spoiled for choice here. So
I
you can go
I
left or right wherever you want.
yeah, I had some struggles picking the center backs. My fullbacks kind of
The
came to me
center
fairly
backs.
quickly.
I have like one fixture. That's Felipe, a player
Yeah.
that has personally given me more than one headache. And I've screamed at my television or I've screamed on at the
In
stadium
person.
more than once into the air out of frustration um, with Felipe's performances. And I would team Felipe up with Hermoso, and that's where I think that I'm going to
Yeah.
break your heart a little bit because I
Okay.
just can't stomach Hermoso's antics and that capacity that he had for messing up and then kind of going crazy and scoring an equalizer, and then I don't know, like being very boastful about the situation. And it's like you got us into this mess. I mean, it's only fair that
Got you out of
you
it.
bailed us out. So yeah, Hermosa's on my flopping 11,
Okay.
uh, and I think that there is a reason why he was not offered a renewal to his contract. A reason
Yes,
why
I was.
he thought he had a hell of a market for him, and he ended up just bouncing around and not being and not getting a relevant offer for a very long time.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely a player that I think is it has enormously underwhelmed me. There are
Mm.
like three big names in this 11 that have been underwhelming disappointments. But I would say that for me, Hermoso is up there because I really thought he was a heck of a player. But
Espagnol, he was.
I
Yeah.
headed down disappointment avenue, a little bit like the path I'm following with Robin Norman. I'm still giving him some leeway. I think there's space for a nice comeback story, but
He's
Hermosa is
on your
one of
radar.
the big disappointments for me. Yeah,
Oh man, Felipe Montero had one pretty good season for us, 2019-20, the COVID year, and then
if you say
he
so.
had his He had his moments in 2020, 2021. Not very many
Okay.
after that first season. But that first season he was here for like 8 games in a row in that winter. Felipe and Hermoso were our only healthy center backs.
Oh
It was
yes,
those two. They had to play like 8 straight games together in like October, November, December. It was terrible. The
yes.
defense was awful. If Felipe had his moments, I was cool with them not offering Hermoso a renewal. A few of my friends weren't, but I was cool with them not offering him a renewal. For my
Oh yeah.
center backs, I chose Charlo Soyuncu and Gabriel Paulista.
Okay, but I mean, seems
So,
unfair because Paulista just didn't get to play, and
no, he did. He was
he
horrible
was
when he played.
he was
Horrible.
brought as a super last case kind of solution. A little bit. I mean, his arrival felt a little bit like Langlais when he initially arrived. Just so Langlais has managed
That's a good comparison.
to, I don't know, blackmail Simeone into getting a renewal. But yeah, I felt tempted to include Langlais in this
So did I.
in that spot. Yeah, but
So
yeah,
did I, man.
I
You know what?
you can make a
I'm
good case for Paulista. Yeah,
and Soryunja was like the most random signing in history. A player who barely played at Leicester, had a ton of injuries, just red flags abounding. He played half a dozen games here and was promptly sold for a profit. Amazingly,
but
for a
I
profit to
mean,
Fenerbahce.
it was a good situation. Atletico made money out of that operation, played the player a few times, could have cut a good deal, and I think that it's just that the player did not adapt, and it's one of those hit or miss bets that was obviously not a hit. It was a tremendous, but I don't know if I would categorize him in that in that spot. But yeah,
It wasn't an ambitious signing, and maybe I'm punishing him personally a little too much for
yeah,
this. And this isn't personal, but the lack of ambition that signing demonstrated was appalling.
yeah.
That was really
I
my biggest
mean,
problem with it.
Langlais'
And
new contract is. I mean, we're blaming
that's also
Langlais
not
for getting a
ambitious.
contract. But I
Langlet's coming
mean,
off the bench in
what
this
is the
alone.
guy going to do? If they offer him a good contract, is he not? Is he going to turn it down just because he thinks he may not deserve that much money? I mean, I can
Yeah.
understand the player.
Well, speaking of signings that weren't ambitious at all, we turn to the fullbacks now, Ricky.
Oh, I've got a few of those on both sides. Yeah.
My left back was Sergio Reguilon.
Oh, Regulon. Yeah, that was my first option. But I'll give you
Hor-
another one.
Horrible
I'll give you
signing.
Cicada.
Yeah, Cicada was my backup option for this. This
Cicada
was
is like
way higher than his level.
yeah, an AliExpress version of Felipe Luis. It's like
Yeah,
you wanted Felipe Luis, you sold him to Chelsea. You bring in Cicada, and you keep him as long as you can bring Felipe Luis back. It's like
yeah,
yeah,
they
we don't
did. Like
want
they
you
were
anymore.
teammates. I think
Yeah,
they were teammates in the end, weren't they? For
and
half
pretty
of the
good
15,
friends.
16 season.
I think we ruined Cicada's career and probably their friendship too in the
Yeah.
that process of sending Felipe away and bringing him back.
Sorry, Guilherme.
Yeah,
Sorry, man. Who my right back is Matt Doherty.
I had that within my options um, because he was he came as a surprise, but definitely he was not a Trippier. Um, and we barely got to see him. And this summer window when Atletico was apparently in conversations to bring what is his name Robertson, the fullback from
Mm-hmm.
Liverpool. It had that same kind of vibe that it could go either way. I mean, it doesn't feel like a sure bet to bring um, a very veteran player to a key position that you've struggled to cover for so long. Um, I felt tempted to pencil Games into this spot, but I'm going to go with Molina.
Whoa. All right.
I'm going to go straight with
Nowhere to
Molina.
go, huh?
It's the only player I've chosen that is still on the team, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely going down Molina Avenue. He's been so disappointing as a player.
I understand. He was so great at Udinese, and we got a very favorable deal for him. And that first season, first 6 months, he was terrible. Then he was great after the World Cup, and it's just been constant battle ever since to
Yeah,
try to recapture form.
and
This
I
is
think
fourth
in
year
this
here.
case, probably when this player retires and talks about his years at Atletico, he's going to talk about the struggles uh, to perform at the level, and that it was probably more of a mental issue than a football issue, a
Yeah,
quality issue.
yeah,
Um,
because he's a good player.
but yeah, um,
Just the
but
mentality.
yeah, it's a little bit the huge gap between the expectation and the reality of the player that you get. It's a little bit like Rodrigo de Paul when he was
Hmm.
an Atletico player. I haven't included him here because uh, we have so much to choose from in the midfield that
Oh
I
well,
cannot
I
possibly.
I included DePaul. Don't worry,
You
I
included
included
De
him.
Paul. You're
I
my
sure
hero,
did.
man.
I sure did.
You should. You should.
Let's
I completely. I'll completely back you up on that one. But
let's turn now to the central midfield.
there are so many disappointing players to choose here
Yeah.
that you just I just couldn't find a spot for Apple, no matter um how disappointing he's been as an analytical player.
Well, now
How
I'm really curious to hear who you
unclassic.
picked.
Okay, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
now
go
I'm
with four players that I think are some of the biggest disappointments that I
okay.
can imagine fielding with an Atletico shirt. I'm going to go Gaitan,
Mm,
um, Vitolo,
Vitolo's in mine too. Yes.
Serchi,
Talk about expectation. Yeah, Cherchi and
Serchi,
Vitola are both in mine. Yeah,
and,
we agree on that.
and I have like three players to choose from. I went with Kranoviter.
So did I.
But I had a case for Vermeeren,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
also put Guilavogui in the mix. I
He,
mean,
who was here for a hot minute. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I mean,
like all of
there's only
10
one
games
picture of
maybe.
him, and because there was like there was a dressing mishap, and you could see too much through his shorts. Another kind of
That's the
talent.
Joshua Giloy story.
That's not football talent. It's a different kind of talent.
Oh my.
I even thought about. We're probably going to have to bleep this part out. But please don't cut it out of the program. It's too good. Um,
Christ
I've
alive.
and I've tiptoed around it, I think, sufficiently so we don't get flagged or anything. I would say Joao Felix has a stake in this conversation, but he was so good as an analytical player that I can't include him in this conversation. He was a disappointing person. He was very adamant to leave the team at the first occasion, but he never played better than he played for Atletico. So I really can't choose Joao Felix in this uh, huge combination of disappointment. This
Well,
disappointment soup I have in the midfield.
yeah. Let me. Well, while I'm thinking about it, let me address the Joao Felix sized elephant in the room. I didn't include him either. The talent was never in question. The first half of that league winning season in 21, he was the best player in the country. Like for the
Yes.
first like 4 or 5 months, then he suffered the
Yeah.
ankle injury, and he
Yeah.
was never the same after that. And he was never fully healthy. His attitude sucked, and what happened happened. But the first half of that season filled me with so much illusion. It filled me with so much excitement and enthusiasm. Like, holy shit, this is a superstar. We've signed one. He's here. Um, I never have to think about Griezmann again because I was so angry at Griezmann at that time.
Mhm.
And in the end, Griezmann and Joao start playing together, and it pisses off Joao, and he ends up leaving. That was among other reasons why he left. And it was just such a complex situation for the money paid. Yes, obviously, it didn't go according to plan, but the talent was always there. The quality was there. The consistency and the cholismo never was. So that's why he didn't
Yeah.
succeed here.
Talking about lack of cholismo, Vitolo and Gaitan are
Yes, let's
world
talk about
champions
them.
at that category of uh, uh, being exciting signings and sucking tremendously while
I
playing.
I I thought Gaetan and Vitola were missing pieces, man. Especially Vitolo. I loved him at Sevilla. We signed him like 3 years too late.
Gaitan
I
and
was
Benfica was a phenomenal player.
like, yeah, elite player. Vitola was an elite player. Played a dozen games for Spain. Thought that We had to have him. I was so disappointed when that report came out that he'd signed a new contract with Sevilla, but he didn't actually sign it. And then Atletico ended up signing him and then loaning him to Las Palmas because of the transfer ban. And I thought that this was like a slam dunk. Like Vitolo and Costa 2.0 in that window, I thought were slam dunks, and they weren't. Vitolo just had a lot of injuries and very poor performances. Simeone just completely forgot about him in the year we won the league. So he got send off as a La Liga champion, but he wasn't of that standard. I did not put Gaetan in my 11 because I went for Cherchi, Kranovitter, and DePaul instead.
Okay.
Cherchi was one of those signings that they rushed through at the very end of the summer 2014 window. If you haven't been following Atletico for that long, this was the summer after we won the Miracle 2014 league. And the board immediately sold as much of the first team as they could for parts. They sold Costa to Chelsea. They sold Felipe Luis to Chelsea. Arda Turan stayed, but he went the next year. They wanted to sell Koke, but Koke didn't want to leave. I think in another simulation, they sell him to Barcelona or they sell him to Man United, and they take money. Absolutely, they do. They sold everything that wasn't nailed down that summer. So Jesus Gomez, who was your right back consideration, he came in as Juan Fran's competition that summer. That was the summer of Griezmann and Oblak, so you can't say the entire summer was a waste because it wasn't. But Cherchi came in from Torino at the very end of that window, had a great year in Serie A, did not adapt at all to Spain. Almost immediately complained about his playing time, scored 1 goal against Malmo in the Champions
or
League.
maybe adapted to the nightlife of Spanish life more than to the playing style.
Cherchi had that reputation as a bit of a nightclub enthusiast. So he was out the door within 6 months. He was shipped off to Milan. Fernando Torres came back in return, and that really worked out for everybody. Cherchi then came back, though. He had a second stint here in 2016-17. He had a few more appearances, but it was a terrible signing, waste of money. I think that was Andre Berta's doing, the Cherchi signing. And it was it was Berta or Caminero. I think it might have been Caminero, actually.
I'm not very sure. I would say it's Berta already, yeah. But I'm not entirely sure, so I'm bold on saying something. What about your forwards?
Everyone knows my thoughts on DePaul. Everyone knows my thoughts on him. Kranovitter was coming from River Plate. He was supposed to be the next Javier Mascherano. And he played only a handful of games here, and he just looked completely lost. We shipped him off to Sevilla the following season, and we never heard from him again. My forwards, I chose Jackson Martinez as one of my forwards. I teased that last week. When Jackson signed for us, it was, I think, a club record fee at the time, or very close to it. In his introductory interview, one of the journalists asked him, how many goals do you think you're going to score this year at Atletico? And he said, I don't want to put a number on it because it's going to be so many. 6 months later, he is sold off to Guangzhou in China, before the Saudis started offering these huge wages and these huge contracts to players. The Chinese Super League did it first. So we sold him to China 6 months later and made a small profit on him. But Jackson was not of the required standard. I think he had more assists than goals. Just a very disappointing signing. From Porto, scored a ton of goals in Portugal. Just one of those signings that makes you think not everything that glows in Portugal is not everything that glitters in Portugal is gold.
Jackson Martinez is like the most blatant example, but I think that Raúl Jiménez felt the same.
He was my other choice.
Yeah, but I could not choose that, having Gameiro and Vieto. I think they've been very frustrating players for Atletico. And Gameiro was good.
I liked Gameiro, though. I liked him.
I know, and a lot of people do. So I had a substitute for Gameiro because I kind of feel bad. It was more that he was underwhelming, and you were expecting more punch from the player, and he wasn't as good as you expected. I would put Saponjic next to Vieto to not interfere with your choices. Do you think that Morata is going to be in the conversation of being one of Atletico's greats or one of Atletico's flops?
Good question. Closer to a flop. Definitely not great.
I think so as well. And what about Memphis? It's also in the floppy category. It's like flip-floppy.
Yeah.
It's like
Memphis, all
not
the
an
talent
entire
in the world.
flop, but yeah.
All the talent in the
It,
world, none of the application, none of the work ethic.
I think the three players that we just talked about, Gameiro, Morata, and Memphis, follow the same pattern of high expectations, not yielding the expected results.
I think the expectations swallowed up Morata and Gamero to a point.
Yeah.
Not so much Memphis. Memphis just didn't care. And that's fine. There are footballers like that who are still really high quality, but Memphis just didn't really give a shit. Is what it is.
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
He was
He
into
had
other
too
things.
many other things
rather.
going on, and that's great. Good for him. Just not of the required like professionalism, I want to say.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Yeah,
That
that
exercise.
was great.
But most of our starting 11 is coincidental, which is quite a surprise for me because I thought that
I
we were
am
going to
too.
differ.
Yeah, we had like 4 or 5 of the same ones. You guys in the comments,
we
let
know
us
exactly
know.
where disappointment lies in our hearts. We can pull on disappointment much easier than we can on success.
Yeah, whether you were at the ground or you were in my case in my apartment watching a
Exactly.
lot of
Yeah.
these games. If you guys are watching or listening on YouTube or your preferred podcast platform, let us know who your greatest disappointments were of the Simeone era, even before if you
Yeah.
want to go back
I
into
mean,
the
for me,
early 2000s.
I love recording these podcasts with you, but I especially enjoy going to the comment section on the day after, 2 days after, and just reading through the comments and seeing what people think.
I love it.
Some have great takes. I think that our job stability is not quite there. We our jobs aren't safe. Got a lot of good listeners that might just could have a go at our jobs, man. And somebody suggested make predictions. That's the moment where I'm really going to lose my job here. Next to you, if I start making predictions, you're going to realize how I completely suck at that. And
How little we know, truly. We're here yapping about Atleti, we don't know shit.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm afraid of. I mean,
well, in the last few minutes we can start that because we can talk about the Levante game very quickly before we sign off.
Okay. I think that the Levante is that it kind of rival that that you should be able to beat easily, but that has been able to complicate things for you so many times, more than what would be logical. You just can't think of a comfortable game there. I'm checking out the most recent results in in recent seasons.
Yes.
And if we go back to the pandemic times, the post-pandemic times, there's only one win for Atletico. The
One
last
win out of
one
5.
in Copa. Yeah, so that's hugely disappointing how Atletico Madrid has stumbled with this foe time and time again, and sometimes in the worst possible moment. Um, uh, the I can remember the 2020, the game was very close. It was a very close win, and
The last time we
sometimes,
beat them, right, with an own
yeah,
goal in
in a Liga
2020.
game, yeah, because
Yeah.
the most recent one is a Copa game. Uh, and how close these games navigate to total disaster. 2022, there's a home loss against Levante.
The year
2021,
before
there's
as
another
well.
home loss against Levante. Atletico doesn't lose that often as a home team. For a team to pull off 2 back-to-back wins as an away team at Metropolitano is quite the feat. And
Yeah.
this is something that Atletico has to really, I would say, get their shit together and come away with a solid result, because it is a recently promoted team. I'm going to go with um, too close for comfort, a 2-1 win.
I think Atletico are going to win 1-0.
1-0, but it's also too close for comfort.
It's going to be I don't care that Levante are 16th in the table.
Uno
Uno
3
Solís
shots
was
in the
back.
last 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's how it's going to be.
Black making the save.
Like, we're going to score in like the 70th minute. Like, I think Alvarez will roll one in 20 minutes from time, and we're going to have to scratch and claw and fight for our lives to keep the clean
Okay,
sheet.
Black man of the match and all that,
It's going to be terrible. Yes.
The whole 9 yards. Okay, yeah.
It's going to be
I can
horrible. I
see
don't
that
care that they
happening.
have 2 wins. They're a pretty good counterattacking side. Our old pal Manu Sanchez has been playing pretty well for them too.
Yeah.
They have a striker, Eda Ayong, who is one of the best forwards in the league this year.
Mhm.
I think in a central defense that is already kind of liked, he could cause some problems, especially in transition. So
Mhm.
it's going to be very interesting. They're going to give us like all the ball. I don't think we'll have anything less than about 60% possession, but that number is going to go down late in the game if we score a goal in the second half. I am preparing for a terrible time, but I think they're going to win.
And then we head for a 15-day international break.
Yes, and then I will be in town.
And then you will be in town, which is grand. Can't wait for you to come over.
Can't wait, man. I come in 10 days from when this comes
super
out. 10 days.
Yes.
We'll finally get to meet.
Yes, we will.
In person.
And embrace and
that's right.
and wine and dine together, especially wine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm jonesing for a Calimocho.
Okay, yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah, I can
take me to a good Calimocho spot.
I can behave as a 17-year-old again.
Man, I haven't even behaved as a 17-year-old in a while. Tap back into that. Well, on that note, speaking of Calimochos and painting the town red, we're going to sign off here on That Atleti Podcast. Thank you all for listening to That Atleti Podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching here on YouTube. Leave a comment as well. We love engaging with you guys. In addition, you can listen to the audio form of this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating and a review, really wherever you prefer to listen. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at That Atleti Podcast, intothelcalderon.com, where you can read my writing. The Maneras de Vivir podcast is where Ricky talks about Atleti in Spanish. Give them a follow. Facebook and Twitter /X at Into the Calderon, at JB Beren, at Ricky AM, and we'll see you next time. Adios.
Bye.